My name is MISSNUX, and I'm going to be starting this little series of creating a custom vroid for my friend, Hika. You can find her reference photo to the left as to how I'm going to be trying to figure out the shapes to replicate the most about her. It's not going to be completely one-to-one as I'm going to be drawing each of these assets myself. With the reference photo, it is from a lovely artist that you can find down in the description. She did both the design and the rigging for Hika. I started this little series because I wanted to figure out if I could create custom vroids for people. The current model that I'm using, that I will be showing here, is the one that I am using, and then it's a mix of all different kinds of assets that I found through Booth. It was really fun to be able to mash up all those kinds of different assets and be able to create something so beautiful. And my first thought was to be able to create my own assets, but I'm not too creative on trying to think of my own designs, and so I decided if I could instead help 2D VTubers bring them to life with 3D. So I asked Hika's permission to create her a 3D model with vroid, and she did, thankfully. So this will be the whole videos and series is just going to be how I've created her from scratch. Now for these eyes, I was contemplating just coloring them in Clip Studio, as that is what I've done with my own eyes. The eyes on my vroid are the only thing that I've made custom on it, that I did myself. These eyes were actually... I went through a lot of different variations of how I wanted to color her eyes, but I had cut that all out because that added like an extra 20 minutes. But in the end I decided to just do all the coloring inside of vroid, because eventually I started figuring out just how easy it was to be able to blend colors together just as easily as in Clip Studio. And the first mistake I did here was not turning on the mirror option that's on the top right on the eye. I didn't realize that until it was too late. I had already colored everything. So eventually you'll see later that I opened Clip Studio to mirror the image and just put it on the other eye. Now for the eyelashes, or the eyeline, I just decided to go with the vroid premades and then just color them in, shape them up a little bit. Now this is where I was messing around with the color calibration, and my first thought was using a darker color thinking it would come out more vibrant, but it really didn't at all. So I started fixing it up by lightening the gray a bit. And then for her lips, I also did the same thing with the color calibration. And this is where I was trying to think if I could add lipstick for her to try and accentuate that little skin thing she has going on. I couldn't really figure out if it looked good or not, so I think I eventually just went with a lip line. And so this is where I started to fix all of her expressions, as most of them were kind of clipping her eyebrows, or they were just way too extreme. So I usually fix all of these up before I throw her into Unity and start using the Hana tool to give her the facial AR kit for iPhone. So this is where I start coloring in the teeth to a little bit of a darker color to have a better shadow on them. As you usually won't see someone with their mouth open all the time, but I just figured maybe I could also fix the color of the tongue. And I really did want to choose the same exact tongue that I had, but with vroid it's a little tricky because if you end up choosing a custom mouth inside option, it actually is also tied to their mouth shape for some reason. So I just had to go in and color it in myself, to which I still don't know if the tongue is too dark or something. It's about as dark as my tongue for my vroid. Now I feel bad because I accidentally did the drawing for her collar off screen. I didn't realize I was not recording, so straight afterwards I started recording this. But what I basically did was put a t-shirt on her that had a high neck collar and then deleted everything else except for that high point and then colored in the collar. Now her collar is supposed to have a dangling pendant on it, but that was something I tackled later on. Now you can see here, I was fighting with the neck area because every time I kept trying to correct the shape with an eraser, it would just make the whole piece blotchy. So I kept having to fill it in. I think I cut that out. I think I only put in the fact that I only colored it in once. Now for this part, her character design did not have a reference for what the back of her character looks like, so I just decided to make a smaller version of what's in the front on the back. I then exported it into Clip Studio so that I could add some soft colors onto it to kind of make it seem like it's either the lighting or if it's just like a bit of her skin that's able to peek through it, if it's like a lighter cloth. And eventually down the line I accentuate her collarbones a little bit more here as well. And for this, I already had her bra for her dress pre-drawn from the first version I was making for her. The first version I think I accidentally made in a newer version of vroid. The vroid version I'm using right now is 1.0. Just to make it easier to use the HANA tool through Unity. So I apologize for not having that progress, but it is, I simply used like the normal tube top and then cut it out to how her dress should look. Now, as a final note, I don't have the process of how I did her hair. I somehow did all of it without recording, or maybe I just forgot to record. But what I had basically done was pick the pre-made sets for bangs, the back of the hair, and the twin tails. And then just reshaped them to how I wanted them to look based on her model. So it wasn't all too exciting. The coloring wasn't too exciting either. I just kept fighting with figuring out how to color hair and how to shade it with each strand. But eventually I just made it kind of look cel shaded. And with that, I will say thank you for watching this video. I don't know how many parts it's going to be, but I will put it into a playlist for you guys to watch.